Hello creative people, today we are going to build a slider with React. So a pretty simple React slider with a lot of features. We can click on the different button, we can click on the dots right there and it will just change the different image. Okay, so let's code it right now. Okay, so as usual, I will put the source code in description so you can grab it and use it as you want. So right there, we just have a pretty simple create React app application. And inside it, we have a components folder. Inside that folder, we have a slider folder. And I will just keep the CSS here. We will focus on the logic part. And yeah, we will just keep the CSS right there. We are not going to code it. And we are going to create a slider.js right there. So this will be our component. And we do have a data slider right there with some ID from UID. This is a pretty useful package from NPM. And there are some text right there. But I will explain it a little bit later. So we do have our data right there because usually it will come from an API or from some backend or stuff like that. So right there, I just create some data here in our components. And then we just have some icons there. And for the images, this is the same as the data. Usually it comes from an API or from some backend. And right there, we are going to be full front end. So the different images are in the public folder. So we can reference the different paths from the image. Okay. So this is why I put some images right there. Okay. So great. We can start there. We can start. So I will just start the live server. Okay. This is great. This is working. So RFC tab. And right there, I will need use state. I will also need the CSS, so slider.css. And we will import Btn Slider for the two Btns from Btn Slider. But right now it's not here. But we are going to create it a little bit later. But we do need the data slider. All right, so we will just import it right there. Okay, great. So we will focus at first on the UI. So we can just go there and add class name container slider. Great. And we will display the different image right now because we do have imported that data slider. So we can just use it right now. So data slider.map obj index from the map method. And we are going to return div right there. Okay, but inside those div, we will have some image. Okay, some image. And for the source and alt attribute, there we don't need to fit it, but the source is important indeed. We are going to add process.env.public URL. Okay, plus backticks /images/image dollar and you just open the curly braces index +1.jpg. Okay, so what the hell was that? We are just here referencing the public images from the public folder. So you just need to put a slash right there and then you can do some dynamic paths. And we do need to add process.env.public URL because when you are going to build your application, when you are going to build it, when you are going to run npm build right there, well, you need to add your custom URL right there. So it will just add, for example, www.yourwebsite.com right there. Okay, so you need to add that so you can reference your image when you are going to build your final folder. So this is okay for the image. Great. You can import it in there. So import slider from ./components/slider/slider and just use it there, slider. And okay, so this is working, but we need some other CSS. So actually we need to put a class name on the div right there. And we are going to write there slide like that. Okay, slide. And slide reference this class actually, but the opacity is set to 0. So if you put 1, you are going to see the image right there. So it's working, but for our animation purpose, we need to start with 0 right there, okay? Great. So now that the different images are there, they are there actually, but we just can't see them. We can add the different buttons. So we are going to go below the image and add Btn Slider. So I can zoom in, Btn Slider, like that. Okay, so we're going to put 2 Btn Slider. We can uncomment this and create that Btn Slider. Okay, so inside Slider, I will just create Btn Slider.js. Okay, and now it's time to just create those Btn. So element type is invalid, is potato string from, okay, yeah, you just need to create the component right there. And okay, it's working, great. Okay, great, so we are going to use that component for the 2 buttons on the left and on the right. So we need to import slider.css and the left and right arrow. So left arrow from /icons/left arrow.svg. Okay, and we are going to take also right arrow and right arrow. Okay, great. So now inside it, I want just to return a button. Okay, so a button there and there. And I want to add a class name equal Btn slide, like that. And inside it, I will just put the different images. So we can just remove that. And we are going to put at first just right arrow to begin. Okay. And yeah, this is the basic stuff right there. So you can see that we do have one button right there, but there are no logic there. We need to create some state and everything and pass that state through the props to change the style of our button. Okay, so we are going to do that right now. So we can just close and go right there. So const slide index and set slide index equal use state, and we are going to make the state start at 1. Okay, just 1 right there. Now that we have our state, we can create 2 things: the next slide function and the prev slide function. So const prev slide right there. Great. So we can now pass those functions right there. So on the first one, we are going to pass the props move slide will be equal to next slide. And on the second, move slide will be equal to prev slide. Okay. And also we want to add the direction, so direction right there. So direction equal next. Okay, and below direction equal prev, like that. Okay, great. So we do have function and direction, so we can go back to Btn Slider right there, and we are going to take them from the props. So direction and move slide. We are just doing some destructuring right there, so you can log it if you want. Direction and move slide. And you just open your console. And so I'm just going to, yes, just to actualize it. So we do have one error right there, but we will solve it. And you can see the different props right there. So it's working. Right there, we need to add a unique key prop right there. So you can add key equal obj.id, which is a reference to data slider and the different ID right there. Okay, so now we should not have error anymore. Great. This is working. This is nice. And now we can just say on click on the different button. It will just trigger move slide from our props. And we do want some dynamic classes right there. So direction equal next question mark. If yes, I will just add Btn slide next. And if it's false, I will just add Btn slide prev, like that. Okay, so now we do have our button, and there is a next button and the previous button, so it's working just great. And we do need to change the src right there. We do need to change the source too. So we will just change it right there. Direction equal next question mark. If it's true, I will feed it with the right arrow. And if it's false, I will feed it with left arrow. Great, great. We can see our two buttons and it's working. We're just doing a lot of conditional rendering. And yeah, this is the magic of React. Okay, so now we do want to change the class name of that div right there also. So we just say slide index equal index plus 1, because index from the map function is starting at 0. So to compare it, you need to add +1 each time. So question mark. If it's true, I will just add slide and active anim. If it's not, I will just add slide like that. Okay, great. So now we can see our image, okay, because we do have our animation and active anim. And active anim is just right there with an opacity of 1. So yeah, this is great. This is great. Now we want to just create our function right there and the logic of our function. So when we are clicking on the button, we want to just trigger next slide and prev slide. So right there, if slide index is strictly different than data slider.length, I will set slide index to slide index +1. So this is the case when I'm just clicking on the next, and when slide index, so this is inferior to 5, because data slider.length is all my images are right there. So this is the length of my array. Okay. So if slide index is inferior to 5, I will just go on the next image. And else if, so you can put it down if you want, else if slide index is strictly equal to 5, so data slider.length. Okay, I will reset it, reset, I hope this is a nice pronunciation, to 1. Okay, so if I'm at the limit of my array, so I'm at the last image, I will just reset to 1. Okay, so to the first image. Great, so let's try it out. I will just click right there. So you see it's working. And I will just go back to the beach right there. You see, every time up to the beach. Okay, great. So now we can do exactly the same right there for the previous slide. If slide index is strictly different to 1, set slide index -1, because this time I click on the previous button. Else if slide index is strictly equal to 1 and I want to click on it, I want to go to the previous slide when slide index is strictly equal to 1, well, I will just go to the last slide. So set slide index data slider dot length right there. Okay, so let's see. Up, I'm at the last image right there. Okay, so this is working. Up, last image. Okay, this is really important to put data slider dot length right there, because we could change it with just 5 and it will work actually, because the length of our data is 5. But to make it more dynamic, you need to put data slider dot length. So just imagine you have some more images right there. Well, it will just adapt perfectly. So right there, I put some text and title, subtitle, etc. So you can add some text right there if you want. You can add, something from the obj, for example, obj.title or stuff like that. Okay, and you will see something. Maybe it's behind it actually. So let's just see. Yeah, it's just right there. So you need to put some position absolute and just put it at top 0, for example, and you will see the text. Okay, so if you want to add some text dynamically, you can just use this. Okay, great. So this is working. We do need one last thing. This is the little dot at the end at the bottom of the slider. So we can just go there and create div.container dots. And inside it, I will create an array with array.from, and I will put an object inside, a length, with the property length 5. This will just create an empty array with a length of 5, and so I can use the map method with that. Okay, this is a little technique. So dot map right there, and I will use item and index parameters right there, and I will return a div inside it with the dot class right there. Okay, so it must be working. Yes, great, we do have our dots. So we are just creating an array right there. You can log it if you want. Look, log array.from. This is an underground technique, you know, just to, yes, you see that array with undefined, 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 undefined. So it has a length of 5, and so we can use map on it to create our five little dots right there. Okay, great, but we do want some indeed dynamic class name right there. So we are going to just create it. So class name equal slide index equal index plus 1 question mark. If it's true, so I will put the dot and active class. If not, I will just put the dot class. Okay, so you see that now it has that class, that active class. So we do have one little black spot right there because we are at the first index. And so we do want to click on it and to navigate with that click. So for that, I will just add an onClick equal, and I will put an anonymous function that will trigger a move dot and give the index plus 1 argument right there. So I will just create it and then I will explain it to you. So const move dot equal index, so parameter index, and it will just set slide index. So when I click on one of my little dots, it will trigger move dot with the index plus 1. Remember, map there will give us the index, but it will start as 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we do need to add 1 to it, so it will be the same as the index of just the set index right there at the same index as the image if you want. So it will trigger move dot with the right index, and we will navigate, for example, to the third image, up to the fifth image, and to the second image, etc., etc. Okay, so when you want to call a function there with an argument, you need to trigger it with an anonymous function. Okay, so if you just put the function right there, it will trigger move dot when the component is created. When this is parsed, it will trigger move dot, and we don't want to do that. Okay, we want to trigger it only if I click on my dot. Well, that's great. That's finished. Yes. I hope you've liked it. And yeah, this is a pretty nice component actually. This is pretty nice to do. Yes, some really easy stuff when you know what you are doing right there. So I hope you've understood me. And yeah, see you next time for another quick tutorial.